Hi, it's me, ENFJ, and the bliss that had been taken over me last week has kind of dissipated, um, but I am not feeling as bad as I was yesterday when I upped the dosage of medication. I'm I'm getting really tired because of this medication, and at first my problem was that I couldn't sleep, and now it's that I always went to sleep. So I don't know if this is me just catching up from all the sleep that I haven't slept in like 3 weeks, but I I've been sleeping a lot today and yesterday. Um, I have been dealing with lots of different people uh, dealing with their feelings in a strange way, like spilling out their emotions to me. Um, People who don't respect boundaries, and then uh, it feels like I don't really know how to respect boundaries either, and I don't want to step on anybody. So um, what uh, what happened first is that I met up with my ENFJ friend and my INFJ friend a few weeks ago, and we were sitting at a restaurant. And the thing is, I'm an honest person, so when somebody asks me how I'm doing, I will often, like, if I trust a person, say what I'm actually thinking, which puts people off. Not because she asked, how are you doing? And I told her about my burnout, so it was the first time that we'd met since I'd um, told her that. And I said, yeah, well, I'd had a pretty shitty week. And I said, but I'm feeling good now, I'm feeling happy. Um, and she came and gave me a hug. She came around the table and gave me a hug. And I was a bit confused, but it's fine. I'm okay if people come to me with a hug if it's appropriate, but I don't go up to people and give them hugs because I'm an introvert. But then she sat next to me. Instead of like going back to her seat, she sat next to me and she started talking about memories of how when we first met, she was so alone, she was so lonely, and that she was going to make a collage of people that she liked, uh, and if it was okay if I could have my picture on there. And I could see that it was her way of showing love, but then I saw that I turned my head and like I was patting her shoulder because she started crying. And I was like, are you okay? She said, no, these are tears of joy. But I didn't believe that. They weren't tears of joy. She was, because suddenly the conversation was not about me. It was about her and her feelings. But she couldn't really realize that because she doesn't really see the distinction between my feelings and her feelings. I was feeling happy, but she wasn't. And she thought that she was crying for my sake. But actually, it was, well, her suffering that she was crying about, or whatever she imagined I was feeling. So it was kind of a weird situation. My INFJ friend, thank God, was good at comforting her or like saying the stuff that she needed to hear. Um, he wasn't doing the sugarcoating thing, but he was like saying sound stuff. And then she was like, okay, okay, and she went back to her seat. And then she said, oh, we can't meet up next week, I'm sorry. And we were like, what? We never said anything about meeting next week. We meet like once a month at best because we're introverts, you know? Uh, and so here she was apologizing for not being able to meet up next week because she's moving to another city. And we said, no, that's fine, you know? And she said, no, but I really want to meet up. And we said, but it's fine, you know, we can meet up in several weeks, it's fine. And it's just, she didn't know how to take time for herself. And so instead she was spilling these feelings that she didn't really know how to deal with. And like, while the social situation was fine, like we were in complete harmony all around, but since she was feeling something inside, she didn't really know how to let it out, because she's an FE dominant and her TI is less, so it's hard for her to see like what she actually wants, what she actually needs. So that was kind of interesting, but strange for somebody who's an FI user who usually keeps everything inside. I do overshare about my life, but I don't like spill my feelings in the same way, you know. Like this was in public in a restaurant, and yeah, so that was strange. And then what happened later on this week? My boss, who I think is an ENTJ, came into our case study group, which is basically the doctors meeting up with the younger doctors to discuss patient cases. And we were talking about a toenail operation, okay? Really interesting stuff for us, but probably like super boring stuff for anybody else, or kind of disgusting stuff. But I've never done this operation and I wanted to learn how to do it. And so there was, it's for hangnail on your toe. And I was learning about that. And we were three residents and one specialist, the INTP specialist. I don't know what type he is. But the specialist had written an email about the science between leadership to everybody in the at my workplace, and saying like how great we are to, like how lucky we are to have good bosses. And I kind of agreed with the email, but I also kind of didn't understand why he posted that so that everybody could see. But I wasn't thinking about that email when I was in the room. I don't think I'd even read the email, so I was confused. And the boss came in, and he usually doesn't go to these things. He's not a doctor himself. He's actually a nurse who trained to become a boss at my clinic. And we said, "Oh, hi. What are you doing here? Is there any important information you wanted to give us?" Because usually that's what he does. And he said, "No, I just wanted to come by and listen." And we were like, "Okay." I mean, there's nothing against that. But then he asked a question saying, "Oh, I was wondering if you knew what I could do," to the specialist. My son is not going to school. My 14-year-old son is not going to school. And he said that he has private problems, so he was wondering if meditation could help. And I was just confused. The two other residents that are sitting next to me, they're pretty poker-faced, chill guys, you know, like, so I don't know what they were thinking, but they didn't know what to say, I could sense, and I didn't know what to say either. And then he started talking about how he's never in the now, he's always thinking about the future and about plans and about stuff, but he's never in the now. And he meditated once for a whole month and got 10 seconds out of present mindfulness moment. And so he was wondering like if he should do that again. And the specialist doctor said, yeah, well, mindfulness is good. And then he asked, like, what is it that made you do all of this mindfulness? Was it stressful? And he said, and the boss said, yes, it was stressful. And it's only once you feel bad enough that you have to do this kind of thing. And I was just confused sitting there because it was like suddenly it had become like a mutual therapy session between these two. And this wasn't a patient case discussion. And I was feeling like the professional distance, I need to have that in order to feel comfortable in my job. And him saying that, like, he just came in just to blurt his problems out. And he wasn't the purpose of going to this, you know? He could have gone and talked directly to the specialist doctor if he wanted to talk. But I felt like it was pretty unprofessional to do that. And then I had to talk to my supervisor about this. I said, like, it's kind of weird how our boss does this sometimes. Because he has done the similar kind of thing sometimes where he goes and, like, he says something private and it's like, like, it's kind of awkward because he's our boss. And he tries to be so personable with everybody, but, like, it doesn't work. And my supervisor is an ISFJ, so she kind of stays and does her own thing. And she said, Ingrid, don't worry about these men who have to vent, because they haven't worked on themselves. It's something that they should take, like, their own problems into their own hands and not assume that everybody else is going to be sympathetic. Because we were talking about how all the men at my workplace are kind of have problems, have psychological problems. And so that was what happened to with my boss, and I was kind of confused, like, where the professional distance is. And I told that to my supervisor, and she said, yes, it's good that you, like, try to draw the line so that I can work in a better way, in a more healthy way. Because I was so frustrated that all these people who are 20, 30 years older than me are acting like children, and then they expect me to have all of this responsibility and to be mature and to take care of all of this stuff, and then they are not. Later on that week, one of the doctors, who is really competent doctor, but he works so much and he accumulates all of this anger, and then he just vents out. And he hasn't learned how to vent in a respectful manner towards other people, so sometimes it comes off as him insulting other people. And during our doctor's meeting, he insulted a nurse, and he said, like, she shouldn't be working here, blah blah blah. And my boss was there, you know, and it was kind of awkward. And then it was like, why are you bringing this up? What do you want us to do, you know? Because my boss can't just fire people just because, you know, it's just like he was venting, but there was no purpose to it. And in the end, my supervisor at that meeting said, if you need to vent, you can just come to me instead of going off and on a rant against the nurse. Come to me and we will just calm down together, okay? So it's like he gets into these rages. And, like, my supervisor is stable and calm, and it's kind of stupid that she has to act like a mother to these male nurses, male doctors. It's like, when these men get this power, since they don't know how to deal with their emotions, then they start, like, spreading it out to everyone. All of the female staff at my workplace is mature enough to know not to do that kind of stuff. But I see that in a lot of male doctors and my boss at my workplace, because they haven't learned how to deal with emotions. So they just spread it around, and don't really think about people's boundaries or respecting other people when they get consumed by their emotions. So it's been kind of the theme these past weeks. Now um, I feel like people expect me to be able to have a handle of my emotions, but and then they want me to express it, and I'm sorry, I was drinking hot chocolate and I found out that I had a piece between my teeth. Um, I have my hot chocolate here. Um, it's just that I feel it's a little bit unfair to demand that I have such control over my emotions, and then tell me that's why aren't you expressing yourself? Why are you being quiet? Why can't you share these things? Because sometimes expressing stuff is not the solution. Sometimes you have to process these things internally. And sometimes when I do express emotion, it's too intense. And people then get mad at me for being too intense. It's like whatever you do, people will get mad at you for having emotions. And people will blame you for having no emotions. People just blame you for all sorts of things. But I think that's the way to handle emotion is not by spreading it to everybody else. It's by thinking critically around it and working on it and expressing it in a healthy manner. And I think that I've come quite close to that, but still there will be people who will not appreciate the work that I've done because they're used to seeing feelings expressed in another manner, or they will misunderstand what I say. And this is something that can never be perfect. It will always be subjective from person to person and such. But yeah, so that was the theme. Tell me what you guys think. I don't think I really got to any kind of point, but it's just a series of similar situations that have made me think. So have a great day, everybody. Bye.